Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and I am back with another Switch video. Thought it might be kind of fun to show you some of the games I have been playing on my Switch lately. And this video is going to be a mix of physical releases as well as digital, and I'm going to have a racing game in here, shooters, got some run and guns, also adventure games. So let's take a look. The first one here is called Rise Race the Future. Now, first glance, this may look like yet another, Wipeout or Ridge Racer style game, but really, in my mind, this plays more like a futuristic Sega rally game. One of its cool mechanics is that it has you switching between driving on roads and also on water. So the tires actually retract whenever you hit water, almost kind of like the DeLorean in Back to the Future. And that really changes up the driving mechanic a lot, meaning that when you're on water, it plays more like you're on a boat than a car. Another game that did that really well was Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Remember that game? Like the Sega Rally games, the steering has you sliding around corners and managing your brakes more than you would in, say, other arcade racing games. I guess it's part simulation, but it's also very arcade. And the computer-controlled opponents can be kind of punishing, especially in the beginning when you're learning the game. But thankfully, every once in a while, the AI will screw up, which is nice. There's a couple different modes to playing this game, including challenges, championship, and time attack. But I want to mention that challenges are pretty cool because often it's not just about coming in first. You'll have different objectives that you have to complete in order to actually pass it. For instance, some requirements may need you to improve your times each lap, or maybe you can't use boost, or sometimes you never have to be in last place. And as you can see, the graphics are just beautiful for a Switch game. I especially want to point out that the car designs are pretty cool. Kind of reminds me of looking through car magazines and seeing concept cars, from major car manufacturers. They're beautiful. This game is less than 20 bucks on the eShop and definitely worth a look, especially if you are into good racing games on Switch, which, as you may know, they are few and far between. Next up is a really interesting shooter called PaArumi. I'll admit, on the surface, this may look like pretty much every other vertical style shoot 'em up that you've played before, but this one has a really interesting rock, paper, scissors style shooting mechanic that is going to remind a lot of people of, say, those classics like Ikaruga. Your ship has 3 main attacks and 1 super attack. Now, this is where it gets interesting because the 3 main attacks are all color-coded to be either red, blue, or green, and you switch quickly between those by using the A, B, or Y buttons. You'll notice that the enemies are also color-coded, meaning that if you use the same color of attack on the same colored enemy, well, you'll do less damage, but you'll help build up your shields. However, if you use the corresponding opposite color attack on the enemy, well, you'll end up doing more damage and you'll take them out quicker. For instance, like say you use the red attack, well, that'll hurt more of a blue enemy. But it gets even more complicated than that, and I froze the game because I want to explain something because it's really cool. So notice in the left-hand corner there, you have the green and it says boost shield. Now, right now my ship is in green mode, meaning that if I shoot other green enemies with the green beam or the green attack, it'll damage them, but it will also boost up the shield. However, notice in the center there, red is the opposite color of green, and that'll do extra damage. And then on the right is blue, meaning that if I shoot a blue enemy, it'll start boosting that super attack. And so as you're playing the game, you're constantly swapping color attacks based on the color of the enemy. And so you can, boost up your shields when you need to, you can boost up the super attack, and then you can do extra damage when it's really important. And you're constantly playing this rock, paper, scissors mechanic. It's really cool. Also, the backgrounds just look fantastic. I mean, they're some of the best that I've seen on a new shooter this generation. Now, as you can guess, this game is definitely not easy to learn, but I will say after a while, it will become second nature. And again, having that bottom screen constantly updating and telling you what does what is awesome. Probably some of the downsides would be that, well, it is a little on the short side. There are only 5 levels, which, yeah, it's not great, but considering that there is a challenge mode and there's multiple difficulties plus online leaderboards to climb, there is a lot to enjoy with this game. Shoot 'em up fans looking for something a little different should definitely not miss this game. Next up is Blazing Chrome. Oh man, if you are a fan of old school Contra or even Metal Slug, and you don't even get a little teary-eyed when you boot this game up, there is something seriously wrong with you. As you can see from this footage, Blazing Chrome was created from scratch to be a love letter to those classic Genesis, Super Nintendo arcade run and gun shooters, and I have to say, it nails it in almost every way. I mean, you have the old school 16-bit graphics, you've got the pretty unforgiving difficulty, plus I love and appreciate this lo-fi audio clips they have in here.
Blazing Chrome.
That is just hilarious. Initially, you can choose from 2 different characters, but you get to unlock more later, and like Contra or Metal Slug, there are a ton of weapon upgrades to pick up, and even some vehicles to hop into. Plus, I'm digging the big set pieces and levels that you get to explore. I mean, just look at that parallax scrolling right there. It's just so awesome. And like any good old school run and gun shooter, well, the bosses are gonna be tough as nails, but you learn their patterns, and after a while, you know, you're gonna die a couple times, but you will kick their ass. This is such a fun game. Everything blows up real good. If you like those kind of games, definitely check out Blazing Chrome. Next up, we have Broken Sword 5, The Serpent's Curse. So, I have a confession to make. I mention this every once in a while, but my local GameStop knows me really well. I actually really like the employees in there, and they are always looking out for me. So, this game got on my radar when said employee pointed out one time when I went in there, and he was like, hey, there is this new adventure point-and-click game that came out on Switch. And he was wondering if I even knew about it. And I was like, what? Really? I mean, that seems so random, but yeah, I had to pick it up. Now, I'm actually really familiar with the Broken Sword series because it's been around, I believe, since the 90s. And in general, they are very well-made games. I've played a couple of them, and you know, they're a nice mix of adventure, puzzle solving, plus they just have great characters. There's typically some sort of fantasy element involved in it, some sort of, I wouldn't, you know, sci-fi kind of mystical element to it, which I always like. Now, this one here originally came out back in 2013, but it's now just being ported to the Switch. And I hadn't played this one before, so it was my first time playing it, and I do want to mention that even though this is the 5th game in the series, you don't have to have played the previous ones. They're all standalone games. Now, this one starts out with a murder mystery in Paris, but quickly has you traveling all over the globe to try to solve the story behind this stolen painting. Has you investigating an ancient cult, and at the end, potentially saving the world. And if you've ever played an adventure game before, this is going to be very familiar to you. You do a lot of walking around and talking to other characters, which, what I like about the Broken Sword series is that all the characters are just excellently voice acted here. They are fantastic and often hilarious.
Thankfully, there was no one around to see me do this. Very interesting.
But you do a lot of point and clicking around the scene to try to unlock clues as to what to do next. You also get items that will help you move the story along. Very typical stuff. What I noticed about this game over the previous ones I've played is that this one has some of the best graphics in the series so far. As you can see here, the backgrounds are just truly beautiful, and I noticed that the characters this time are fully 3D polygon models and fully animated, which is cool. I will say that unfortunately the story takes a couple hours to really get going. In the beginning, it's a little bit of a slog. You're not exactly sure what's happening or where it's going or why you should even care. But after you leave Paris, the area that you start in, it definitely starts to pick up. I also want to point out this nice little Easter egg here that made me laugh. Do you recognize the album cover? Overall, I do like this game. It's an enjoyable adventure game for fans of the genre like me. and it can be picked up for less than $40 on physical. Next up is another shooter that got a physical release on Switch recently that I picked up. It's called Psyvariar Delta. What's cool about this game is that unlike other shooters, this game doesn't have the traditional power-ups that you would normally fly over and pick up. Instead, you are encouraged, no, not really encouraged, scratch that, it's more like required to fly as close to enemy bullets as possible to evolve your weapon. It's called buzzing. Thankfully, that leveling up happens pretty quickly because it can be pretty nerve-wracking to try to get as close to all of those bullets as possible. It's definitely a, risk versus reward scenario. You'll notice that this game has pre-rendered 2D graphics, which isn't to everybody's taste. I myself, I kind of like more traditional pixel style graphics, but it's not bad here. It looks good, it's clean. What's cool is that a lot of these shoot 'em ups on the Switch support in handheld mode actually switching the screen into its vertical mode so that you actually get to see more of the gameplay, almost more like it would be in a real arcade. Which reminds me, I would eventually like to do that for my big 4K HD television. I guess you have to get a wall mount or something like that. Admittedly, I haven't played this game a ton yet. I just picked it up about a week ago, so if you're more familiar with it and if you have some recommendations for me, definitely post down in the comments below. Well guys, that's a quick look at some of the games I've been playing on my Switch lately. I'd love to know what you guys are playing on your Switch. Something tells me that a lot of you are going to be playing Fire Emblem. I plan on picking that up too. That looks really awesome. So, alright guys, thanks very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and take care.